of the Republic of Kenya.
So let me just bring in my guest, David Picosing, the Member of Parliament of Pokot South, who is behind that petition. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. He's joining us from our City Centre studio. I'd like to hear further explanations, really, about this move to court to compel Raila Odinga to actually be part of this presidential repeat poll.
Yes. You know, Betty, we want to tell the country that we are in an extraordinary times that calls for extraordinary solutions and decisions. And that these threats by our colleagues from the other side, which is NASA, that they are not going to participate in the upcoming presidential election, is dangerous and is unlawful. And what is happening is that since Raila knows that there are only two candidates for this presidential election, he wants to take that advantage and cause confusion in the country. And yet, it is a court on September 1st that gave them the nomination. You know, it's like giving them direct nomination to stand for the presidential election. And by so doing, then it's threatening that court order. And that is why I've moved to court under certificate of agency yesterday in my petition to then ask the court, you know, that if presidential candidate Raila Odinga is not interested anymore for the presidential election to take place on 26th, then the court should withdraw its nomination, you know, and declare President Uhuru Kenyatta president under Article 138(1) of the Constitution. That is number one. Number two, my petition is also praying that if then Right Honorable Raila Odinga agrees then to go to election on 26th, then he has to go in strict adherence to the Constitution, which is that he should not then subvert or intimidate his voters or tell his people not to vote on 26th, so that he comes back to court again after the declaration of the results and challenge the results under Article 138(2), which is a requirement that if a presidential election like this is called, then election shall be done in each constituency. Then they are hoping to tell people don't come to vote and tell their members don't come to vote. They'll come back again, you know, to court and seek to nullify the results. What we are saying then, therefore, is that if you are going for the presidential election, be genuine enough, go for the general election, don't incite people not to come and vote. And should you do that, we want the court to pronounce itself that if results then are declared and Raila has told his supporters not to come, that Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta should not suffer, you know, or results are not going to be nullified just because somebody has told people don't come to vote, and then he comes back again and goes to court. So we don't want that to happen in this election, because then if that happens, what happens? We will be in problems. We'll go to an constitutional crisis. We will also be in cyclic of election. That is what we want to protect in our country.
All right, let's just go back to the reason why Raila Odinga says he will not be part of this October 26th repeat presidential election. And he highlights quite a number of issues with regard to IEBC. And remember, the Supreme Court ruling actually poked holes in just how IEBC conducted itself in the whole process to do with the August 8th poll. Don't you think that the concerns that he has are actually valid for him not to be able to participate in an election where we'll have probably maybe the same issues coming up again?
No, two things come up. Number one is that Supreme Court never found any criminal culpability in IEBC, and that is in the open, that is in public domain, and that is the truth. Number two, practically, even if you want to make changes in the Electoral Commission now, it means actually we will not have election on 26th. Number three, in my opinion, these guys are not honest in their demands. Because if they are asking for minimum reforms, Parliament has given them an opportunity, you know, through these reforms that are going on. But you see, they are refusing it. They are not honest in their demands, in my view. And the demands are impractical. Let's be very honest. They don't want the election on 26th, so that then after 26th, they want to demand a government out of the Constitution. And that's where we are saying. And that's why the petition is actually saying because they took us to court, and now I'm believing that we are actually in court, but we are on a bond. Court has given us a bond until 26th. It's up to how we spend this time. And some people want to confuse the time. That is why we want to go back to court and say, look, you know what, if this guy or one of the candidates, and it's very unfortunate, he's taking advantage that there are only 2 candidates for election on 26th.
Right.
He's really taking advantage of that. So we want to go back to the same court and ask what happens in that scenario. And if he doesn't want to participate, why don't we then declare the other candidate president-elect under Article 138(1) of the Constitution? What's the problem?
All right, so you've mentioned the issues and the raft of proposed laws that Jubilee has brought to the table. And of course, you also mentioned the reducible minimums that, NASA has also brought to the table. So what makes the proposals by Jubilee superior to those that have been fronted by NASA, considering that it should be really a level playing field for both parties?
I said earlier, Betty, and I think you understood, and the country understood, that the irreducible minimums, some of them are impractical. And they know, they are also leaders. Right Honorable Raila Odinga is not a simple person. He has been a leader in this country. He knows very well that it is not going to be possible. He wants to make it actually impossible for election to happen on 26th. In terms of reforms that have been proposed by Jubilee, these are legal proposals. We are not saying that it has already been passed. It is a proposal. It is now within public participation. It is either we reject them or we agree them. It's a proposal. Let them bring a legal proposal on the table. This is an opportunity for them. But they are not taking advantage of the opportunity. They want to subvert this election. Let me tell you, Betty, and the country should know. And because they want to subvert the election, they want to lead us into a constitutional crisis. And because it is the court under Article 140, subsection 3 of the Constitution, has taken us to where we are again back to court to give leadership.
All right. Just going back to the petition and the papers that you presented to court, there's something that you mentioned that the conditions and demands that have been demanded for by NASA are unlawful. So is it that they're unlawful or impractical? Which is which? And then you also mentioned that Raila not running will be an act of treason. Maybe if you can expound further on that.
You see, first of all, the demands which they are bringing are unlawful because they are not based in any law. And we have given them an opportunity. If they have any legal proposals or proposals that have legal binding, then let them come to Parliament. There is no institution in this country that has authority to make any proposal with the legal basis or binding, if not Parliament. And therefore, by them not bringing to Parliament, it makes me actually say that it's unlawful. Number two, in terms of the threats which they are issuing, which is to subvert the Constitution. It provided for under Penal Code and also this Constitution, that if you are trying to subvert the Constitution, it is treasonable. That cannot be allowed. And that is why we have gone back to the same court that issued its order for election to be carried on 26th, to ask court, now that this country is on your legs or your hands or your mind, can you speak to these issues which are coming? Can you save the country? Can you come to the assistance of the country? It is the court that will give us a direction in this election.
All right, finally, let's just talk about the timelines. We only have 22 days to that 26th date. Where exactly are you with this petition? What are the steps, moving forward? At what point do we expect, the court to pronounce itself with regard to the issue that you've raised?
Very good question, Betty. Now we have submitted ourselves to court, and the court has its own calendar. We have gone through under certificate of agency, and the court today will give direction, which is, of course, to serve the other side. And we have also given our own proposal in our petition to say that the court should pronounce itself by 19th of this month, so that at least there are some few days there, for the court actually to give a proper ruling. We have also enjoined Electoral Commission, which are supposed to be prefects of code of conduct. They are also prefect of their own requirement that these candidates participate, so that they can also monitor by the end of campaigns, they will have made up mind to say who is actually serious for this campaign. And therefore, we have given them until 19th of this month. But now, court will have its own procedure and how it runs. But we have given ourselves our proposal by 19th of this month.
All right, just before I let you go, I'd like to hear your thoughts about, yesterday, and I'm sure you watched the news and you were able to follow the proceedings and what happened with the envoys. They came out and said that, there should be no unnecessary pressure from both sides, both Jubilee and NASA. They've really brought out quite a number of issues. Jubilee is proposing to change quite a number of things about how we run our elections. NASA, on the other hand, have their own demands. But the envoys are saying, let's give IEBC space to actually plan and prepare for this October 26th election. What are your thoughts on what they came out to say yesterday?
My thoughts are that I agree with them, and they have a right, and every Kenyan has a right to say something now, because we are heading towards uncharted territory, if you are to take it from a layman's understanding. However, the question that comes in is their proposal binding? Who will listen to them? It says like bishops talking. Who will listen to the bishops? Who will, or Betty, take it another way? Who will talk to Right Honorable Raila Odinga or His Excellency the President that they will listen? Who will talk to them? And particularly, take it another way, how will those talks be binding, to Honorable Right Honorable Raila Odinga? How will they be binding, even if you give a proposal like that? And that is why we have gone to court, and the petition is very clear, that I'm sure what is coming from court will be binding. If the court says that should you not want to participate in the election on 26th, that is tantamount to turning down your nomination given by the court, then it will be binding. Uhuru Kenyatta will be declared the president. So it's up to them now. The choice is on NASA. The choice is on Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Whether he wants to come to participate on 26th, the choice is his. And if he chooses to participate on 26th, let him go for campaign. Let him solicit for votes. And not incite people not to come and vote. The choice is on his table. But and if he doesn't want to participate on 26th, the choice also is his.
But don't you think, that statement and even your thoughts are, taking sort of like a high ground? Because, at the end of the day, you have people who support NASA leader Raila Odinga and at the same time President Uhuru Kenyatta. So really, it's not really about, it's either this way or the highway.
You see, Betty, so what next? Mm-hmm. If somebody is saying, I'm not going to participate, and then he's not going to write a letter to IEBC to say, I'm withdrawing. So what do you do in that sense? To cause confusion in the country. What do you do? We go back to the person who gave them the nomination, which is the court. You remember, this nomination to stand for the 26th election is given by court under Article 140, subsection 3 of the Constitution. It's given by Supreme Court. So we are going back to the same court and say, if somebody turns down the order, the court order, what happens? The court must speak to that item. I want to tell you the truth. And it's not like you that's not high ground. We have gone to arbiter. The courts in this country are arbiters. So where do we go, Betty, to seek some of these legal issues? Right. Where do we go? Can we leave our country just to go to the docks? Somebody must think outside the box or without the box. And that is where we are now.
All right. Thank you very, very much, David Petition, who's the Member of Parliament for Pokot South, just bringing us, really explaining to us what this petition is all about. Like I mentioned earlier, he's moved to court to compel Raila Odinga to take part in the October 26th presidential election, and he was just shedding light really into the reasons that he took to this petition to court. So we'll be following up on that developing story here on KTN.